Okay, let's begin Siman Sadi Hey. Siman Sadi Hey. We should have. No, it's not working. Okay, no. Siman Sadi Hey. So really, most of Sif Aleph and Sif Beis is pretty self-explanatory. To begin with the two sugis that we're not going to talk about. Not to say that we're not going to talk about them and get stuck in them and then talk about them. We're going to not do that. We're just going to mention that we're not going to talk about sakana, which is dagim, which is taz, sivkot, and gimel, which we partially dealt with extensively, partially did not deal with extensively. But this is really the marmaka. This is the taz, sivkot, and gimel, which deals with the sakana, and the unassuming and untrained eye opens up a Shulchan Aruch and Siman Sadi Hey and gets an interesting shock that the example of pariv is dagim. It's like, what in the world is going on over here? No mention of anything, of problems, of this, of that. So the Taz Sivkot and Gimel discusses this. We're not going to talk about that, number one. Number two, well, partially because we already dealt with it. Number two, which we're not going to talk about, which is more of a disclaimer, is, which I would assume you would anticipate, is Davar Charif. And the reason is why? Because Sadik Vav. Very good. Very good. Because we'll get to Sadik Vav and we'll deal with it. The one part of Davar Charif, and I know this is completely backwards, is to realize that the Ramah is discussing two different dinim in Davar Charif. There's a din of Davar Charif of Nat Barnat, and then there's a din of Davar Charif of Eina Ben Yaimai. Two different dinim of Davar Charif, and that is what we're not going to talk about. So what we're going to talk about is basically Nat Barnat, and to sort of, I don't know, try to put things into perspective, we'll say as following. Nat Barnat, what we're discussing particularly, is Hatira, is Basar v'Chalav, is Chalavi and Basari, and the combination of them via the Nat Barnat stage, which of course is going to get into how many nats do we have? Is it Bishul versus Sli, the Chachmas, the Marshalim, the Shach, etc. Versus Nat Barnat D'Isura. Nat Barnat D'Isura, which we all know already, just to point out the obvious. Nat Barnat D'Isura does not have a din of Nat Barnat. Why does Nat Barnat D'Isura not have a din of Nat Barnat? Different lumduses, but to say it simply is because it's not Niklash. The time is not Niklash, the time is not weakened when it comes to Isura. Only when the problem is in the Hetera stage, in the Basar v'Chalav stage, that's when the whole creation of Nat Barnat begins. Which means when you have a treifa kli, you're not going to have a din of a Nat Barnat. However, that does not mean that Inu ben Yaimai doesn't apply to treif. We just have to remember the two things are not the same. Meaning Inu ben Yaimai means that the bli is dead. Not Barnat. What I'm saying is almost stupid obvious, but sometimes you just get stuck. So I'm just pointing this out. Not Barnat is that it's weakened through the knots. So, but it only starts when you have a tam. If you don't have a tam, why don't you have a tam? Because it's an Eina ben Yaimai. Then you're not going to have an issue, which means, this is a quite odd case that no one will ever have. In the world of kashrus, it's super relevant, is if you have a treif keli, which is an Eina ben Yaimai, it's not going to answer. It's not going to answer. Okay, barring Davar Charif, and I'm going to try not to make that disclaimer 1,000 times today, but that's obviously the disclaimer always. Once you're going to tell me that there was a Davar Charif involved, that means you're telling me that it might not be in a Ben Yaimai, and therefore a Shkayach. Of course, it could be an issue. But once you have a case of an Eina Ben Yaimai, even if it's treif, a proper chazer pot of Eina Ben Yaimai, that you go and you cook inside of it, you're fine. Whether you should have done it, whether you shouldn't have done it, but it's not going to treif things up, which is the world of kasher is obviously extremely important, because once you wait for Eina ben Yaimai, then all your prior issues fall away. Now, does that make a lechatchila? Of course not. And obviously, kasher agencies are much more machmir. But that's another. Just these are more like hakdama type of points, and then we'll point out the 2-3 big sigyas. The other hakdama point is Einat Barnat. Einat Barnat. Now, where this applies, we're going to see, will never aser. will never aser. Once you have a nap or not. Now, does that mean that we just said not like the Pischei Tshuva, that if you cut with tuchlas this akina, it might not have rules of nap or not because it bumps it up to level of tzli? No. But a nat bar nat will not aser. It's never going to aser b'diavad. So a lot of what we're talking about is in the lechatchila stage. Okay, those were, I think, 3-4 disclaimers. Now let's dive in properly to Sif Aleph and Sif Beis. So Sif Aleph, I'm just gonna quickly read through the words. Basar rechutza yafeh. You're allowed to eat it with the opposite. You're allowed to eat it with, we'll call it the opposite gender. But again, it's parav. It's parav. It's parav. It's parav. Parav in a flesh kapah you can eat with milk. It's misham david noisin tam. Parav noisin tam. Dehetera. If it's not rechutza yafa, so then if it's not shishim, which we could obviously understand that. Now, if you mix it with kutach, does that mean it's aser? Oh, not necessarily. It depends if you have shishim. I mean, it just means that there wasn't bittul yet. You weren't allowed to do it. But if you did, again, you still have to ask your question, again, is there shishim now? Meaning, if I made something par, these cases are not relevant, but if you made something parav in a fleshika pot that wasn't rechutza yafeh, and now you went and you mixed it with cheese, and you want to know what the story is, you don't have to say, oh, because it wasn't rechutza yafeh, it's usher. No, you just have to ask, is there shishim now? And the level of rechutza yafeh is what? Yeah, the level of rechutza yafeh, especially in our world, is what? Epis mashu. The fact that you didn't have shishim yet is a chiddush. But to not have shishim now, that's that. Now we go into Sif Beis, which is really the main event. And in Sif Beis, of course, we have the Mechaber, we have the Ramah, we have what do the Sfardim do, which they don't care what we have to say, but we'll just mention it in case they want to know what we feel about them, because they're going to ask their local Sfardi Chacham, and depending if they follow Rav Avadia, they're going to go with his psak. If they follow the Ben Ish Chaim, they're going to go with his psak. But for us, and for us Ashkenazim, we're not going to have such a kula. But there is a relevance, as we'll mention in a moment. Sif Beis. Many have seen the Aruch HaShulchan that points out that the only reason why it gives us a case Tarnigoles is atu the Seifa, and that was just the case that was brought. So you have a sidebar sugi over here, fascinating sugi. Does things go through shells of eggs? Relevance to us, not much in the world of eggs, maybe relevant to us in the world of a takeaway that we'll see that if there wasn't a klipa that was cracked, if there was a real klipa, it does seem that there's some rajba over here perhaps that's willing to be makel straight away, which, in the world of maybe a suvi would be a nice heter. Maybe if one had something really properly wrapped that no belia goes through, which in our world isn't so existent, pot in a pot would be a case, maybe in a plastic bag, but yeah, that's a suvi. A suvi is a vacuum seal bag. How to don up a suvi one day we have to get to. But the truth is over here, they're not really going with the Rashba, but that's, the Shita that would be relevant. So that's the Machaber. And the Machaber seemingly says that it's all mutter. What's the obvious? The Mechaber says once it's made, it's mutter to now go mix it with the opposite gender. What's the obvious kasha? The Kaddish is the Bedek HaBayis. That the Bedek HaBayis said, Rabbeinu Yerucham said that what? Said the din is they're even allowed to do it l'chatchila. So what happened over here? So in the Sephardi world, again, I think this is Pashit, just to point out, there's a large fight that broke out over here, Chacham Avadia, which is interesting because we know he always goes with Maran. So you would think over here he goes with Maran and the literal words, which is what? It's only if it was already created. Over here, Chacham Avadia says absolutely not, and he says that it is even mutter to do lechatchila, like we find in the Bedek HaBayis. And his raya is a history raya. And this, of course, is why the historians all say, well, you have to know history. Because comes the Chacham Avadia and he says, Bedek HaBayis choyber achar HaShulchan Aruch. Look at that. Even though in Shulchan Aruch he said a case that it was already created only afterwards, can he do it? But after he wrote Shulchan Aruch, he went back to Beis Yosef. He then wrote the Bedek HaBayis, which is his addendum to the Beis Yosef. And over there, he was more makel. So you can have a kasha that in Shulchan Aruch he wrote only once it was created. Says Rav Avadia, well, he's not going to reprint the Shulchan Aruch. So he went to the Bedek HaBayis and utilized his mighty pen over there to say that he's being makel in the Chatchila. Yes?
Does he always pass like the Bedek HaBayis?
So Maran, not Maran. Well, Maran, if you're in that world, yes. Rav Avadia, yes. Rav Avadia is saying a klal. Rav Avadia is saying a klal over here. He's saying that the Bedek Abayis was written la'achar Shulchan Aruch, and therefore, if you find the discrepancy, the Bedek Abayis is going to win. Over here, it's going to be Lakula. Do I necessarily have a Rai? Other places, I don't. I'm not proficient neither in Bedek Abayis nor in Svarim of Rav Avadia. But that is what he writes. Obviously, right. Oh, right. So you have to know history, of course, because then why? Because then he comes along to the other Sephardi Chachamim, the Ben Ish Chai, the Sefer Zivchei, the Chida. No, the Zivchei Sedek is written by whom? Which is the Chida, no? It is a Chida, right? It is a Chida. Zivchei Sedek is a Chida. We had this already. No, just my brain turned off for a second. I apologize. The Zivchei Sadik and the Kaf HaChaim, correct. Both of them come along and they say absolutely not. They say Psak is like the Shulchan Aruch writes. Only once it was made can you go and then mix it. What's the raya? Because the Shulchan Aruch was written after the Bedek Abayis, and therefore, of course, this is the reason why you have to know history, because then you see that there's a machlekes in all history, and therefore it's absolutely pointless, because at the end of the day, there's nothing you could absolutely do. God bless you, Meir. That was for you and our good friend Rabbi Davis, who enjoyed this immensely. Both the Zivchei Tzedek and the Kaf HaChaim, right? It's Yodua to Shulchan Aruch Chibru Moran Hach Bedek Abayis, and what's his right? Coach Kosov Rav Yad Malachi. Okay, Gevaldik, wonderful. So what's Halach L'Maisa? Halach L'Maisa is, yeah, it depends which world of Sephardim you go by. For us Ashkenazim, this isn't that relevant, as we'll see in a moment. You want to know, which is always a good kasha, how does an Ashkenazi Rav paskin for a Sephardi? It's odd, because what? Right. Well, let's say it happens. So usually when these things happen, there's a reason for it, and that's usually, let's say, in like a yeshiva. You have a Sephardi hanging on an Ashkenazi yeshiva, and usually, now you have a fight. According to the Ashkenazi Rabbanim, the Sephardim now should take on the Ashkenazi Minhagim. According to the Sephardi Chachamim, they shouldn't. So, it gets a little bit difficult. But, it's someone who was saying the other day how the Ramah is always more machmir. It's absolutely not accurate. I'm going to give you the one big example for the world of the Sephardim. This is like the biggest one. This is when all of a sudden all the Sephardim want to start pulling out the Ramaz Kulas. In the world of Yichud, Sephardim paskin like the Pashas in Gemara that everyone has a din of a parts bismanazeh. As the Gemara says that I don't know, it was Rav, whoever it was at the Gemara says Kegoina no, like I, and the answer is no, and therefore everyone has a din of a part. Says the Gemara. The Ramah says no. There's something called a kosher, and it's read b'tmiya. And avada, there are those who are ksherim, and the Sephardim, the Shulchan Aruch paskins, they know l'mais everyone has din of a parts, and therefore you're going to have a very big problem in the world of yichud, a very very big problem, because two men are not going to be shomer on each other, and therefore 2 men and 1 woman is also according to the Sephardim. Also Ashkenazim, we're making on 2 men because we see no man is going to do an aveir in front of another man, but that's only if you're ksherim. If you're prutzim, then it's going to be a problem. So all of a sudden over here, the Sephardim won't get all uptight. Because not that we call them prutim, no, they call themselves prutim. But over here, l'maisa, the Sephardim have a big problem, because in the world of yichud, having an isser yichud of 2 men and 1 woman is a big problem over here. And the question is, can the Sephardim go with the Ashkenazim? Hamzi over here, there's very unique Rav Elyashiv. Rav Elyashiv says over here you can be makel for the Sephardim like the Ramah, which is funny. Usually it's the other way. Yeah, he's Ashkenazi. Okay, Givaldi. Anyways, that's just fun to start off the morning. Bishal Akum. Oh, hello. Shalom Aleichem. We have wires. Yeah, Bishal Akum is the obvious one. Yes, thank you. Bishal Akum. And that's another case that all the Sephardim are busy. Yeah. These are Yechidi cases that are the world. Okay, Givaldik, weiter. Chaver, it's 10:30 in the morning. Some of us didn't just start our day. Let's compile a list. Good to compile your list. There you go. You have 3 cases. So far it's 2 versus 1. Because I just told you, Maish told you one, and I told you one. He learned another one. Okay, compile a list. Could be there are more than the other, but it's nothing to do with, Okay, weiter. Let's continue. That is the world of the Sephardim. Comes along the Ramah, and in the world of the Ramah is really where we have to get involved in, just to make one point. I listened in, which we're going to see in a moment, is Shtickle Yomtiv. I listened into Rabbi Reisman, Shirim from, I don't know, at least 30 years ago. I know he's very, very old Shirim. But he thinks he's the only Shirim he gave in Basar. But Stam, he has a few very interesting nikudas. Just one on the zakana of fish. Sakana of fish. Stam, it will appreciate it here because we see fish being quoted all over as not a sakana, right? And then you have the Taz and the whatever. So he quotes from Rav Pam. There's no such thing as a minhag on a fish pot because it's mefurish in the Gemara Nishtazai. There are paiskim that say avada they took on chumras. This is what he quotes B'Shem Rav Pam, and the reason why that's a big deal is because there are people that are brought up with it, and then the whole question always like, what do we do? Do we have to be machmer? My mother always had a fish pot, and like you learn and you find out that like lemais there's no reason for it. What the Gemara says fish is parif straight, and there's no issue with fish. There's no issue with fish, and all of a sudden people are being machmer in a fish pot, which we spoke about back then. I think if you go through the math, they're not really being machmer. Are they really being machmer in the blias of fish? No, but the minhag has to make sense. If they're being machmer in the fish pot, they're machmer in the fish knife also, because you have the same ducha, the sakina is the same brown. Okay, so there's a teretz that in fish. What's a teretz? Maybe there's no ducha sakina on fish, which by the way you learned in the Pesach Chuv. You have to be careful how to read it. Why is there no ducha sakina on many fishes? Fish. Why? No, because it's soft. Ducha sakina by its very nature means duchka. You have to push down. If you have a piece of salmon, if you're cutting it with whatever, that salmon should not be consumed. What? Oh no. Oh, because if you when you eat the aquarium, and you have to cut through raw octopi, and it's yeah. Okay, let's not go there. Let's not go there. Okay, Mayor, that was on you. That was not on me. Yes, you can take it up with him later. Let's continue. Okay, so that was just a nice ara, a nice ara. One more ara before we get involved in the Ramah. Is we're discussing not barnat of kalim, not barnat of food, meaning you cook your potato in your cholent. Your potato in your cholent. No, most people have meat in their cholent. No, you don't? Okay, awkward. Right, flam. Okay, so potato in your cholent. Yeah, continue. Potato in your cholent. What's the status of that potato? So this is a fight between whom and whom? That didn't answer the question. This is a fight between primarily it's the Pri Megadim and the Chavastas. And what happens, really, the question really is what happens in the next step? What happens in the next step? That's really the question, right? The potato obviously is going to be a problem. No one had a suffix against that. What if you cook those potato in a pot? Now, what level does it transfer? Lamaisa, the Pri Megadim says the potato is a shtick meat, and it's a shtick meat. Cult it. You don't want to cholent. I don't understand. Oh, why are you putting in another pot? You want to know? Chaver could think of their cases. Lo mein, of course, lo mein, obviously. No clue what that means, but let's continue. Weiter. Okay, everyone can think of the case. Let's continue. One more. Okay, so let's go in. The main event in the Ramah is at what level lechatchila are we allowed to do? The Ramah comes along and the Ramah says, number one, yish machmir bitzliu bishal achar lesser neisin tam or neisin tam. Of course, the minhag is lesser lechatchila. Ubediavad, it is mutter b'chol inyan. So another sidebar din is the marshal, which is fascinating that if you go through the names and faces, which I think we did, what would you assume? You learn through the Shulchan Aruch, the Shach, the Pesach Tshuva, the Chavas Das. What do you assume? What's the Psak Halacha? To be machmir, like the marshal. Usually the Shach wins. I started with the Shach. Usually the Shach wins. The Shach quotes the marshal. So you would think that the Lach is like the marshal. And, that means that all cases of tzli don't have a din of not, which is a high-level chumrah. And with Aid, how far we're going to take this is, what about the suffix that the Pesach Tshuva quotes, when your noodles touch the wall of your pot. Very good. Your noodles were in water, but they touched the wall of your pot. So are we going to say that it doesn't have a din of bishul anymore, it's din of sli? And if yes, so you'll say, okay, if yeah, who cares? Who cares? The marshal's machmir now. And you can have kama v'kama issues. So one would have thought, which I think we all probably thought, that one should be machmir. I think that's what one would have thought. Lemaisa, the chachmas adam is mekel. Chachmas adam is mekel. And it's interesting that over here we're calling the chachmas adam l'kula. In a moment that's going to flip. But yeah. I just jumped to the end of the story. Correct. But chachmas adam is mekel, and it seems that's the minhag. Seems the minhag is like the chachmas adam, which is a big savior. That in a lot of cases you don't have to be as concerned, because lemaisa the chachmas adam is mekel. Again, the chayr it's a chiddush, and again, just to have, if you want to name, this is another place that Ray Reisman put his stamp on. And again, the emotional chaver here are going to get upset in 2 minutes, so I'm saying this backwards. He said, the Rapam said the chachmas adam is a paisik achron. You'll see in a moment how that's going to be a stira. But which chachmas adam is a paisik achron. Yeah, we go to chachmas adam, which happens to be that's. I think we all knew that the chachmas adam is lemaisa the way to go, and I think we all knew that. In a moment, right? In a moment. Oh yeah. All emotional schmoozing will leave. You could, if you will get those later during story time. But that's that. We'll see in a moment how this is going to be a problem. But lemaisa, sli. You want to say the minhag should be mekel. You want to say one's allowed to be mekel. You want to say whatever. What are more names and faces? I actually didn't. Anyone have the names and faces open? Who else is mekel over here? No. Who's mekel? Can I get the marshal? No. Anyone? No. Give me. Yeah, no. Everyone calls Lashitas. I didn't. Let's take one more second here, just to have this in order. Oh, and of course, one thing, there's another Shiloh, which is a first cousin over here, is what about the water? What about the water of Bishul? Again, this is going to be like, these cases are like, you got to be a goyim to get these cases. But, once in a million years, probably someone actually gets such a case. Does the water of Bishul get the din of Tzli? And therefore the water is not going to get the din of a nap or not? Yeah. Now, what exactly is going to happen? No, there is a case. There's a case, actually, you need to know this, which we're not going to talk about today. What are you saying? Okay. But the other way is the baby bottles in the bottles. Who cares? It's a klipa. No. They pour that water straight into the milk formula. Pour the water. Oh, okay, fine. Okay, fine. I wanted to give a case. It's mamish this case, which is going to be Sef Gimel, which is going to be what happens when you pour out your pot. The irui, that's going to be the shiloh. That's very important. Chaver, listen to this. I'm not talking about this today. This is the irui shiloh, which is really Sef Gimel. But if you make something milchiks, and then you take that water and you pour it out, and let's say you by mistake pour it into your fleshik sink. Maybe one of your sinks is broken. It happens in life. And you pour what? Maybe you only have one sink. Very good. Anyone else? No, the sink broken is because it's a little bit. It hits home some people in this room with their broken sinks. But lemaisa, what's the din? So now you have to know that the water, even though you would think it's an up or not, maybe it's not. And therefore you have to don the water on top of your fleshik kelim as irui. No? Meaning when we get to the sugya of irui, and we're going to discuss pouring out from one kli to the next. So now, if we're going to don that the water is called sli and not bishul, it's not a not bar knot. What is it? It's a knot. It's meat to the. That's a not bar knot. Oh, go wait. Oh yeah. One second. You just jumped a step. I'm discussing a case. I said when someone has a broken sink, and they poured, now he just slapped, and you pour it into the wrong sink. So the case of the place to discuss what's the status of the water. Yeah. So usually everyone says, who cares what the status of the water is? because I'm eating the food. I don't care about the water. If the food is an not, my noodles are not, I don't care about the water. Kasha is, you should care, because if your water might not be or not, it might be one knot, and then you pour your noodle water, which you're thinking it's all part of. Who cares what I do with it? I pour it on my flea shaker dishes, which have meat on them. You have a very serious problem in your hands. Maybe. No, so we're only talking about a case. Good. So Nachal David is bringing up the other half of this shayla. The other half of this shayla is we're very quick to assume that your pot is one knot. Question is, wait, maybe your pot is already two knots. Because if it came through bishul, if it came through a liquid medium, then already there's another knot on the other half of the story. That's what you're saying. Well, yeah, you boil milk in your pot. Good. So your pot is one knot and goes straight into the water. That's the machlekes. That's what the Prima Gadim and the Chavos Das says. Yeah. I'm talking about you make noodles in a ben yaimai fleishing pot, and that ben yaimai fleishing pot was used for meat. So the noodles, we know, is the din of a knot, the bar knot. So the noodles, in a moment, we're going to talk about slow. That's slow. One second. The noodles we're going to discuss. Once the noodles are not bar knot, so we don't have to worry. We have to discuss the water. What's the din of the water? Says the Chavos Das and the Prima Gadim, and I quote Chavos Das: "Chayne bishal dagim b'kdeiros etzol Basar. After had dagim mutar b'chalav mikomakam haroitev shal dagim asur b'chalav deberoikav leko rakatam sheni v'havi kamay nitzlu." It's like sli. So yes. So you're saying is that even on sli we just have the Chachmas Adam is meko. I agree. However, the Marshal and the Shach is Machmer. It's like, see, I just answered your question. Yeah. Here says you need 2 more times. Are we going with that or not going with that? That's according to the Marshal. He's being Machmer like the Marshal. And he's saying that Sli is a problem. So it is a not for not. He's saying like the Marshal, and he's being Machmer. We just said the Chachmas Adam, the Pislei Tshuva, and the Shach, and the Marshal, they're all Machmer. I just said that. I jumped. We're getting each other confused. I agree with you. Slow. We just said the water is a din of a tzli. Which means whatever the din of tzli is. The din of... Not the first knot. No, what does the Marshal hold? What does the Marshal hold? That's not for not, and not for not enough. I would like to fundamentally disagree with the way you're learning the Marshal. That's what I'm asking. You're always going to have not bar. Because if you like the Marshal, what you're saying is that not is always positive. Depends how you learn the Marshal. I don't know if that's the right way to say over the Marshal. What? I think the Marshal doesn't hold as a not bar not. I'm not sure. If that's the way, if that's the lump is how he's learning, or that he's learning that it is a knot. He's learning that because it's being baked into the kli, it's makabel the knot. I don't know. Whatever this is, Chavra, this is a word game. I'm not arguing. You call it not, I don't care. I'm just saying the way I was talking, I was saying like that. Good. I'm asking with you. I'm not arguing. Hello. Let's just go in din. Who cares what we call it? The Marshal says the case of tzliya is aser. Pislei Tshuva says the case of tzliya is aser. The Chavos Das says the case of water is like the case of tzliya, which according to the Pislei Tshuva, according to the Marshal, according to the Shach, is aser. Yes. Why are we mentioning this now? Because yes, according to the Chachmas Adam, it's all mutter. Correct. I was calling it not. I was just explaining why according to the... Because again, I'm just in the brain, not is mutter. So... Therefore, good. Third, we're all clear? We're all on the same page? Excellent. Now is not kinas. Really, that was interesting. How did you get there? We didn't talk about what you're allowed to do. We didn't talk about what you're allowed to do yet. How you get into kinas? He does. But you skipped, Mayor. You skipped. Oh, some say first say the kinas and then say what you're allowed to do. No, kinas is if you didn't do what you're supposed to do. Okay, good. Very good. Judaism is not a punishment-induced religion that we try to scare people. We try to scare people into keeping the law. Okay, so let's go. The main event over here is the Goyin Chevra. The Goyin in Sivkat and Yud. So everyone open up your Goyins together in Sivkat and Yud. And of course, for everyone who didn't learn this Goyin, listen, it's a travesty as always. And you're going to say, why didn't you learn the Goyin? Because you know what the Goyin said. So, let's tell you what the Goyin says. The Gain Sivkat in Yod is bringing out a fascinating and fabulous klal. And the klal is, when I have an Einoi ben Yoimai Pa, before we see the Gain, I don't know why I told you look at the Gain. It's Pashut Chinese. Before you look at the Gain, yeah, good. Let's go back for a second. An Einoi ben Yoimai Pat, yeah, Lechatchila, yeah, tonight. You want to make, what are you having for dinner? Pasta with meatballs, gewaldig. And your Milky Gepat is, I don't know, wherever it is. Who cares? You don't have a Milky Gepat. Good. Hey, no, I don't want to make an extreme case. Your Milky Gepat, we all know in this kale, it's very difficult to get off your chair and to go pick up something, like to get a spoon when you're in the middle of eating something, it's very difficult. So your Milky Gepat is 5 feet away, and your Fleish Gepat is right in front of you. It's right in front of you. And you say, hey, when did I use this Fleish Gepat last? You're like, I don't know. Definitely not yesterday. Teina ben Yaimai. Can you go take your Eina ben Yaimai Fleish Gepat? Oh, you're making meatballs? Oh, shoot, I flipped up the case. Can you go take your Eina ben Yaimai Milky Gepat and make meatballs in it? Madinai. Why no? That says what? And then he says, but by an Eina ben Yaimai, everything's good. Cause it. He says, by Eina ben Yaimai, you're good to go. Yeah. Noigin Hatter Lichatchila. Very good, good, perfect, excellent. I agree 100%. So the Ramah would sound like, and the cursory glance at the Ramah would teach one, that this is not the right thing to do. And let's say you did. Let's say you did. Kanas? I wanted to know if you're going to give a Kanas. You're busy giving out Kanasim. I wanted to know if you're going to give a Kanas here also. Okay. So there'll definitely be no Kanas. Very good. Now, says the Helig Goin, it's Sivkat in Yud. You could look, and if you have no clue what he's talking about, you're in good company. Because Belsky also had no clue what he's talking about. Now you know. No. Well, that was vicious. Belsky had all the world in the clue what he's talking about. He just said he's not telling what we're saying he's talking about. Right. But Belsky and Ray Reisman said over the story. It's a fascinating story. He said he was middle of watching Ray Belsky kasher. I think it was an oven or something. Which kasher, he was a pot. I don't remember what it was. Said kasher something. And he turned to Ray Belsky and he said, why are you kashering it? It's Eina ben Yaimai. Eina ben Yaimai you still can use. Belsky said, Eina ben Yaimai you could use for the opposite gender? He didn't say opposite gender, I promise you. He said, Eina ben Yaimai you can use for, no. He said, Eina ben Yaimai you can use? And Ray Rasman said, yeah, the gun. He says, what? Impossible. So what does a good Talmud do? You go get the guy. He showed Ray Belsky the guy, and the way Razin said it over is that he was chaylik, and then when he showed him the guy, he said it's impossible, and he had a different shot on the guy. And in the shir he said, if Ray Belsky was here, I'd bring him in to explain the guy because he would do it justice. But we'll suffice it to say he learned the guy differently. But others learned the guy, including whom? The blue sefer on everyone's table. You have a blue sefer and Rasman on your table? That's weird. The Badi Shulchan. Yes, it was. What color is your Maisha? Okay, so good. Then you're a steer. So the blue sefer on everyone's table. The Badi Shulchan makes his diuk. The Badi Shulchan in the Biurim. Look in the Badi. You will not understand the going. If you look at the Badi in the Maskalim on page 295, he discusses that from this going comes out a klal. That anything which is going to be mutter, b'di'eved with a ben yaimai, is a mutter lechatchila with an eina ben yaimai. That's the goin's klal. Av b'kedera in osu lechatchila she'ina bas yaimai el mishum gezira otu bas yaimai. Masha inkin kan the av ben yaimai mutter medina. So he's learning that the whole thing is a gezira on an eina ben yaimai. And therefore, the whole thing's a on a ben yaimai, excuse me, on a if you very good. You say that slowly for everyone to understand. You said it perfectly. The only reason why any is ever upstairs is you have zero.
since Benjamin, by our case, we mixed it together already, right? Between mutters and Dina, Benjamin mutters, don't say any more like Benjamin, and there was mutters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Slow.
Yeah. Because it's an aparnat. It's an aparnat. So he's saying, what's the gzeira? He's saying, what's the gzeira? He's saying the gzeira is just too vite, and therefore the guy wants to learn that. You want to say it again? Say it again. Say it again. So. If you take off the hood, I'll let you say it on camera.
What that means, it's already mixed. It's already mixed. Yeah, meaning the Dina, Benjamin Pop, yeah. The only time we ever asked anybody is Pop, because if it's there, anybody might have to use it. Anybody was never asked it's Pop. So what I'm saying here is that since Medina, Benjamin is mutter, so there's no Gezerah, anybody might have to
Yeah. So I'm gonna read it for you in the words of the Badi Shulchan. Who's chaylik? You all told me the Mashmai is the Ramaz chaylik. Beautiful. And who's chaylik? The Chachmas Adam. Well, Rebelsky, not Rezen. Rebelsky is chaylik. And the Chachmas Adam. So let me just read you the words of the Badi Shulchan says. I am Ashkaz b'ifnim. The Mashmai is Ramav. Chaynu b'Chachmas Adam lahedya. The Lachatchila miyos ein levashel be'oisei kli al minas lo'achlayim einay minay. V'hinei bebir agra taitay de mutter bazav lechatchila v'nosan tam ledvarav, and he explains. No, he's saying the learning the guy is that once there's not going to be any isser, therefore we're even going to let you do it lechatchila.
It makes sense. Once there's no isser, after you do it.
No, that's the guy saying even lechatchila.
What are you going for? Because mutter. You're going to the other. It's a gezerah that we make. Gezerah is Medina. It's mutter. What's the mutter? You don't make gezerahs on things that are mutter.
Here, the Badi says, "Umashma d'Ratzaleimar the Hayalu me'ikar adin." Here, he says, "Mamshu, you're saying beautiful." Mashma the Hayalu me'ikar adin kaimelon did not burn out mutter af bebishel ut chazina. And how do we see that? To be evad mutter bazeh rak de lechatchila noigin lahachmir bazeh. By a ben yoimai, ein chumrazu el be ben yoimai, aval be einoi ben yoimai. Hayadrinon leikra adin de not bar not shari af be bishul chen be ben yoimai. Mutter af lechatchila kei near be kavanas hagra el sheish lishol bazeh. What's the kasha? That's also ligra not bar not, which is obviously the reason where everything starts, meaning the goyin is going into the tam adavar, and he's saying within the tam it's too vite. Within the tam it's xeris, therefore we're not going to say it. The kasha is, but we know that it's also ligra not barnat, which the whole concept of that be'etzem. He continues says el sheish lishel bazeh to ligram lechatchila atir de not barnat also. Kmoshkos he wrote tzivkot yubeis b'shem ataz v'oid poiskim him kena kati tikshi deheich mutter levashel hadagim lechatchila b'isek gedeira. Okay, and he continues. And now he's arguing the Taz, and Grad is being Makel. Very good. So the Maisa, the v'chozeb das agra v'lahalacha ein nir lahakil. So Badi Yeshochan's psak is ein nir lahakil connected Ramah v'chachos adam d'sasam kavaseis. This is the part I said is going to become emotional, because I've quoted Rav Pam as saying that chachos adam is the Pesach Achron, and yet over here he was very, very sharp. And Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, which I wonder if this is where it all comes from. Lamaiser Rav Yaakov is quoted as saying that we are not chayshish for the chachos adam, and therefore you can be makel 1 second, even though everyone is machmir. Everyone. Every Kitzer Sefer out there, Ray Forrest and Ray Hofstadter's Basar Chov that we have, and Rav Moshe Sternbach and Rav Yashiv, and we just quoted the Badei and Rav Chatzkel Roth and Rav Minchas Yitzchak, v'chulu, they're all machmir on this chachos adam. Lamaiser Rav Yaakov. We just said that Ray Reisman says this as well. It's mutter, and we'll leave it at that. He got to say something very cute. He said, "You tell the average woman to do this, she's not going to be so happy. Tell her to use her fleishiga pot to be cooking the noodles, to be using with the milky supper. People aren't so forgiving with such things, but I don't know. I don't know if our women are as emotional about that. Our men are certainly very emotional."
Just the point, when we go safe in a way, it's just within the drug. He wants to know the growth, which makes sense. The growth is saying that what's the chiluk between eating and anyway. But in the once it's cooked, you're allowed to mix it. In the you can't. It's the environment does or in the young. But yeah, some of the young you can't eat it until it's mixed. So in the young, so that's what the girl's trying to say. He's going to say
one step after. Okay. Seder. I'll tell you, there's a shikul problem here is that the Chacham Zadim himself is masking that L'tzarech could be mekel. So in the world of Cheshbin, the Chacham Zadim continues and he says, nearly demein lekli acher, then you could be mekel. So, and then everyone gives in. So what's the machlekes over here? Meaning, lechatchila. I'm just saying it's not such a far machlekes. This is where we started off when we said we don't really care about the Shulchan Aruch. We should care about the Shulchan Aruch. Because if the Shulchan Aruch is mekel mamish at a soif, even on a ben yoimoy, potentially, so then how far, this is getting crazy. Those are the different opinions. Stam, a nice ha'ara, I can't find this. I was looking at the Hakdama. The Chachmas Adam, if you look at the Chachmas Adam over here in Klal Mem Ches, you'd be baffled because he comes along and he's machmir and Sif Beis, Mem Ches Sif Beis, he says, Mutal Achle B'Cholov, Aval Asal Chatil Levashal B'Kli Shein Ben Yomai, Kedei Achle B'Cholov, Denoy Tam Levgan, Asal Lechatchila. He doesn't even quote the guy. So apparently, and I think he says it in the Hakdama, I couldn't find it. Apparently in the Sefer Chai Adam, which he published first, he quoted the guy all over the place and he argued on him. And apparently people got very upset at him. And they were screaming against him, how in the world do you argue on the guy? So he wrote, this is what they say, I can't find it in the Hakdama, they say that he wrote in the Hakdama, Lamaisa, him and the guy were mechutanim. Lots of famous stories between them. But he writes that Lamaisa Avad the guy was nifter earlier. And Avad the guy is in Gan Eden Shalmaila, and he's being misameach that we're learning his Torah, even if we're chaylik on him. But I'm not going to quote him because I want people to buy my sefer. He says something like that over here in the Hakdama. I can't find it. It's Hakdama Stam is a massive Musar Shemuz all over. You could you know where it is? No. I just it's supposed to be here somewhere. I just can't. I tried. But anyways, that's a Chachas Adam. But the Chachas Adam would be makel in that case already. Seder. Eina ben yoyim to make parav. You're making tons of noodles for the Purim Suda, and the only big pot you have is your Milky pot, and you're serving fleishiks, obviously, at the Purim Suda, because it's a Suda's mitzvah, so you fleishiks. Yontif? Okay, good gosh, you should have fleishiks and Yontif also. But let's continue. Now, just to mention, with this understanding of this gra, sort of waters down a lot of the end of the sif. Because now you want to know at what level you can make things to be alu in the opposite gender, pots and pans and all these things. If the Chachmas Adam is a mekel, aneinu ben yaima, even lechatchila, it's gonna filter down the whole story. Just to mention a few of the cases that they mention is to cook in an einu ben yaima, to put in the other gender pots that they're mekel on, to cook in a ben yaimai, to put in an opposite gender keli, which is einoi ben yaimai, they're mekel on. Again, parav. Everything here is parav. Don't get confused in your cereal case. That's a different gezira. That's in Kuf Chavalv, which we mentioned that to use the opposite gender for cold of the other gender, Basar Chalav, cold, that's something else. Here we're talking about for parav to put in the other thing, and we're not talking about when it is Iroi. Iroi is a new sugya, which we have to get to within Sif Gimel Amir Tashev. And finally, just to quote what they bring down over here, Stam, the last case is, what about a not barnat in an oven? What about not barnat in an oven? Now, this really is an oven shmooze, which maybe one day we finally have to actually deal with like a mensch. And this is probably, many of our shaylas are not barnats in ovens. What do I mean it's not barnat in an oven? You want to make cookies. You just finished making your Shabbos Suda. Your oven is fleishiks, and you want to make cookies in your oven. What do you do with those cookies? You want to eat them with your coffee in the morning. That's called a not barnat. That's because your cookies are getting a tam of some level from the zayah of the oven, or if there's zayah or not, or the reicha.
start when you're cooking your cookie, you make cookies.
Yeah.
It's in the oven, is it not?
Nothing's in the oven. You finish, you put in meat. Yeah. You put open meat in the oven. So now your oven is like a kli. That your oven is a kli that got a nice tam from your meat. Now you take out the meat and you put in cookies. It's ben yoimai. And now you want to take those ben yoimai, that's the same thing as your noodles in your fleshing a pot. And now you want to dip it into your milk. So that's the same thing as making your noodles to put cheese on it in your ben yoimai pot. So are you allowed to do that? So the real answer to this is, what level do we believe there's zayah in an oven? And when you're baking, then there is no zayah. And we could add on, are you actually mamish putting it in milk? But let's say you are. Let's say the case of challah, that you plan on, you're making challah, and you know you're going to have an extra challah to make French toast with. And that French toast, you're going to mamish fry in milk. So you mamish have a real not bar not. Is that allowed? This has to do with how far you take ovens and zayah. Lemaisa, I think this is like the official public sentiment, is the way that they quote Rabbi Berkowitz. Is that someone wrote an email to Rabbi Berkowitz and he said, I saw in your sefer, not his sefer, his Talmud sefer, Zera Shmuel, based on Rabbi Berkowitz's psakim, that he brings b'shem Rav, that it's motel lechatchila lafois uga betanur basari ben yoymek shedei lachla uga imachalav. You're allowed to make it ledas to eat it. That's what he quotes. But he asks the Rebbe, Shamati Meishir from the Rav, Shir 9 and 44 minutes and 36 seconds. Shalachatchila machmirin shaloi levels chalav barba betanur ben yoymek besir gidel chalav muchalav v'rak b'diavad imavachalav mekilin. And he wrote to Ladas Das Rav Lemaisim Darzah. So the Rebbe in Shir said one thing. The Rebbe was quoted in his sefer said something else. What's the din? That was the email he sent to Rabbi Berkowitz. Rabbi Berkowitz responded, Meikar Adin, I hold it to mutter. Although we are chayshesh lechatchila for zeyas hayavesh, here will only be gairim, a not bar not, which is anyways only aser lechatchila. I don't publicize it since I don't think that this is the minhag. The minhag is either to liban kal or wait 24 hours. And I think that is what a lot of people believe and are told that they should do that. L'chayr, that is the lechatchila. L'chayr, one wants to know, are they making challah? L'chayr, the lechatchila, I guess, is to burn out your oven. But realize, what does it mean to burn out your oven? It just means to turn your oven on high for 20 minutes, which often you're doing anyways. You're baking your challahs on 350 and you left it on 350 a few minutes before you started. Very often you have that, and we're dealing with the level of a chumrah, which l'chayra anyways is beseder. What would be more of a shayla is when it's not burnout pizza would be more of a shayla. You want to make pizza in your oven right after you make meat, but that's not really our siga. It's because there it's not parv. There's not barnat. There it's the kilu isura, kilu, not really. But there it's coming straight out into, what do you say? No. So that would be more of a real shayla. How much do you really believe? And at that level, some would not even allowed to burn it out. They would want to do liban kal. I guess I'll just give you the three opinions out there in the Welt. Either they're going to want you to self-clean the oven because you're cooking milk, it's in a fleshing oven, you're not allowed to do that. Okay, that's one opinion. The next opinion would be that, self-cleaning is a little bit violent, but fire up the oven to, choose your number and do it for how long? Whatever, choose a number. Whatever the Pesach's mood was for that day, 20, 30, 40 minutes, we'll say. And then there are those that will say that lemaisa pizza is baking or cooking. Which one? Special or afiyah? It's a fight. It's a fight, obviously, because there's sauce. But there are those who hold that it's special are going to be more violent. Those who hold that it's afiyah, because lemaisa, it's a dough, would maybe even allow you to put it directly right afterwards because of the lack of zayah v'chul in our ovens. And Sev Gimel, b'siyat Shmei.